Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and you know who sucks? Captain Marvel. But here we're gonna test not only Captain Marvel's capability for getting 100,000 in Alliance Battle Extreme mode for the Universal Superhero Female Day, which is what I'm doing right now, but we're also gonna be able to take a look, at least from this game mode right now, at her potential for the future in terms of how much better she's going to be. And I want to do a future video as well, specifically and, you know, exclusively, about her in all game modes, including World Boss and stuff like that. But for now, I want to highlight the difficulty of this particular day of ABX so that I can give you guys some tips for those of you that are having trouble, for those of you that don't know who to use, who to build up, who you can score with. This is my top 500 or top 600 Captain Marvel with a CTP, that's right, a CTP of energy, struggling here. We're struggling to hit 50,000 in the first minute. So that means that we're on pace right now, if you're calculating, if you got your calculators out, we're on pace for only 100,000. Thankfully, there are a few other characters you can use, and unlike some of the other days for ABX, especially the female-centric days, this one is not as free-to-play unfriendly. So you have your options, but I will give you the breakdown of which characters to use if you want to kind of whale out and get the maximum score, what you have to do for the actual builds. But in general, a lot of these days are pretty punishing because the scores are very, very low, and so I always like to, or as often as I can, I like to look at things in terms of, I really should have dodged that meteor. I really like to look at things in terms of the efficiency. You know, how much do you have to invest, and what is your rate of return? So someone like Cable is probably one of the best characters in the game for rate of return because although he is expensive, the return that he gives you on his investment is amazing. He can do 2 million for multiple days of ABX. He's a great character to score for World Boss Ultimate. He can do multiple Shadowland stages. He's just great pretty much in every game mode except for, of course, PvP. But honestly, even if you play him manually, you probably could use him in PvP. It took almost 2 minutes to get 100,000, and this is with a jacked up Captain Marvel with, I believe, a heroic uniform, and we're also using Medusa's leadership. So my advice would be don't use Captain Marvel or don't build her specifically for this day. Of course, you can build Captain Marvel in anticipation of the movie. I am, and I know a lot of you guys are, but if you are a newer player or if you're just looking for someone to get 100,000, there are definitely other people that I'm going to be able to show you who can get 100,000 much faster than she can, and with a lot less investment, because this is with a CTP. This is with my 70% energy attack on my cards. This won't be doable very easily for most players otherwise, unless they have a similar build. As far as the top scoring characters for this day, I believe the #1 character is Medusa, and Medusa is #1 because she's the only character on this list. Yes, it's a very short list. She's the only character on this list that can get to level 70. So level 70, gear 25 is a really important factor. Additionally, she has a uniform, whereas a lot of the other characters there don't, particularly Quasar and Singularity. And so she is able to really max out a lot of her stats and bump her physical attack quite a lot from these two different mythic uniforms. She has some pretty good mythic uniform options. She's got both Thors, which is weird. Is she cheating on Black Bolt? But she also has Hela and Black Widow. So I think most players will have most of these uniforms, so it's not a bad investment to get the Monsters Unleashed variant. The mythic value for getting this uniform ranked up with the other ones in terms of the collection is not good, so I wouldn't consider it from that point of view. It's just 1,000,000 gold, but it is something to consider. But with Medusa, you're looking at a pretty easy 100,000. I can show you how that looks because it's basically the same team up. We use the same team up of Singularity and Captain Marvel because of the Cosmic Power team up. That gives 5% all attack and just under 5% cooldown. So you can actually build your Medusa if you're primarily building her for ABX. There's 2 tips that I can give you right away. You can build her with 45% cooldown. I mean, I'm over, but you don't have to be. And you can build her with much less ignore defense. The ignore defense is important because it's on one of her skills. I believe it's on her 4th skill. Her 4th skill gives her 5 seconds of ignore defense, and it's on a 13-second cooldown. So, every 6.5 seconds, basically, you're going to have max ignore defense anyways. And her skills don't do that much damage, so you're not going to notice a huge spike in terms of having, 43 versus 50% ignore defense. If it was 20% versus 50%, you may see a difference. But still, I guarantee you, if you build her up to level 60, if you get her uniform, you'll probably be able to hit 100k. I mean, I have a very aggressive build with a CTP of energy, and well, this could be a lot higher, but anyways. And I'm maxing out at, I think, 370 score for her, which is a lot higher. It's almost triple what Captain Marvel got, but again, it's a very expensive requirement. But we're just going to go through the rotation really quickly so you guys can see what it looks like, and then I'll talk about a couple of the other characters. I think almost all the characters on this list could hit 100,000 if you really tried, Singularity included, but some of them, Singularity included, would probably take the full 3 minutes or most of the 3 minutes to actually score 100,000 points, which is what you need to get the maximum score to get all of the rewards. The rewards you get are pretty good because you get that enhancement ISO 8, and you also get the other 5-star or the other 6-star, and you get 300,000 gold. So it's not something that you would want to skip. You definitely want to do your best, but you can see that Medusa, I got hit there. The one challenge that you have to be careful of, which you can now see the red misses that are coming up, and you can see the yellow icon with the eye, with the black eye through it. The beast, when the beast hits you, instead of silencing you or snaring you, he places a blind effect, and it creates blindness. He gives you the Stevie Wonder. He gives you the Matt Murdock, and so basically your attacks will miss, and when they miss, they don't do any damage, and when they don't do any damage, you don't score points. So again, this is something that's more difficult for you to dodge if you have a character that doesn't have lots of iframes. Medusa without her uniform would probably have a lot more difficulty on this, but you can see it took me less than a minute to hit 100,000, so it's very easy. Primarily, you want to proc on her 5th skill. I'm not doing a very good job of that right now, but otherwise, her rotation is pretty straightforward. You just spam her skills. You only want to worry about proccing on 5. One thing I can give you as an extra tip is use her 3rd skill, because it's not an iframe, to draw in all of the robots, and then use your 4th skill to kill all of them. So I'll show you what that looks like. So when the robots spawn, use your 3rd skill. It's not an iframe, so they're going to keep coming at you. Then you use the 4th skill to kind of wipe them all out, and then you would use your 5th skill to proc. There I procced on my 4th skill. It's honestly not a huge difference between proccing on your 4th skill and proccing on your 5th skill, but ideally you will get the most points out of proccing on your 5th skill. You also have to worry about, I got hit again, I got blinded again. You also have to worry about timing some of your iframes in order to make the Frost Beast not jump. So right there, after the first jump, you use your iframe. The beginning of 2 and the beginning of 1 both have iframes. If you use those iframes tactically, you can stop the Frost Beast from jumping. You can see there, he only jumped once instead of jumping twice. And that is how you kind of dodge some of the attacks so that you don't get hit if you're in between iframes, or if you don't have your 3rd skill up to give you the 5 seconds of immunity, because that is what is going to prevent you from getting blinded and then having that debuff on you. After Medusa, the best bet for clearing this stage and getting 100,000 quite easily, and I'm imagining the one that the majority of you guys are actually going to gravitate towards, is Satana. I know you guys love the way she looks, especially with her uniform, and a lot of you guys have her uniform, and while she's not as good as Medusa because she doesn't have level 70, she has a great leadership that she buffs herself, and she can still get 100,000 fairly easily without a super OP build. I don't have a CTP on her. I believe I just have a regular fire damage proc. I think I rolled it recently because I switched her original proc over to Human Torch, which was very fun, but I ended up getting a Fire 160, which I've actually never tested before. She used to have a Fire Ignore Dodge 180, I believe, and that's what Human Torch has now. Yeah, Fire Ignore Dodge 180. So we're actually going to see how much a Fire 160 does. It's probably going to do about the same, but we still use the same Captain Marvel and Singularity team up. It's basically the only good team up out of all these characters. I know there's so many characters here. And this way you'll get the additional skill cooldown. So again, you can build her with less skill cooldown, less than 50% if you're only or you're primarily using her for this game mode. With Satana, it's a little bit harder if you don't have guard break immunity because she doesn't have very many iframes, so she does get guard broken. I like to use 5, cancel 4, and hit the proc on 4 there. I was late, so the proc actually activated on 5, and because she doesn't have chain hit from a CTP, it doesn't kind of carry over. But in general, her 4th skill does the most damage. She only really has an iframe on her 2nd skill, so you really need to carefully watch the the Frost Beast, and you need to use the second skill kind of defensively for when he's about to jump at you, because again, he will provide, or he will hit you, he'll guard break you like that, but he'll also drop, oh no, I'm gonna get stunned. He'll also drop the blind effect. She's not immune to the blind effect. If you have your guard hit up, you won't get blinded, but that's only on the 5th skill, so you do need to pay attention if that's not up to block it. Here I'm going to get guard broken because of the roar, so I just kind of take it, whatever. But you can see it's kind of similar. It's not that far off from Medusa, where she can hit, you know, 100,000 in the first minute pretty easily. I don't think she can get more than about 280 or 300 with a kind of a maxed out build, maybe 350, but she does struggle a little bit more than Medusa does because, you know, she doesn't have as many iframes, she doesn't have super armor, so she gets guard broken a lot. And then if you build her with guard break immunity, you're sacrificing one of the fire damage slots or crit damage or something like that. So she doesn't have as many offensive tools and as many iframes to kind of keep the Frost Beast at bay and to also dodge the meteors, because as you know, dodging the meteors, building up that meteor evasion bonus on the top right there is going to impact your score, and the higher you keep it, or keep it at 100% for longer, and you'll do better, you'll have a better score. But she still gets there pretty easily with a build. I believe I have a legendary uniform. That's how much I've built her uniform up. One tip I have for you as well, if you've noticed, I try to stay behind the Frost Beast as much as possible. It's not going to stop him all the time from jumping at you, but some of the times he will swipe at you, and when he swipes, he doesn't jump, and that's actually really good. So if you can, and when you can, reposition yourself behind him, get to that booty, and he'll do this swipe attack a lot more often, and you can punish him for it. The last one I want to highlight for you guys is Quasar. Now for Quasar, we're going to have to use Medusa's leadership because it's the best one. It's 42%, and it gives the movement speed, crit rate, last hope team up. You can go with Captain Marvel and Singularity instead, which would give you a 5% all attack bonus because you get the cosmic power that we've been using, so that is 35. And I guess you could use that if you're not using Medusa's uniform, because I believe it's only 36% all attack without it. So I would sacrifice 1% all attack for 5% skill cooldown in order to kind of maximize Quasar's build elsewhere. But if you have Medusa's uniform, it's definitely better to go ahead and use that. Captain Marvel's not going to strike very often for Quasar, and she's not going to do much damage when she strikes, so it doesn't make too much of a difference on the gameplay. However, I think Quasar is pretty fun and also pretty challenging to get a high score with. Now, you generally want to proc with 5, cancel 4. I obviously didn't do a good job there, so I just procced on 5. But that's the general idea. I'm not, you know, the master of Quasar, but when the golden orbs go up, you time that with your 4th skill with the sparkles. It looks beautiful, by the way, and that's basically how you get your damage to go through. Use the 3rd skill defensively because it offers you the immunity, and then you just basically rinse and repeat with the 2 and 3 in between. The problem that Quasar has is basically she doesn't have enough AoE on her skills, so a lot of her damage, even when she procs, ends up getting mitigated from the Frost Beast onto the kind of guys nearby, and when that happens, you lose a lot of the points that you're scoring because each robot is only worth a certain amount of points, whereas the Frost Beast, as long as you're doing consistent damage to them, those points are going to keep racking up and racking up. So it's actually really important to identify characters for future ABX days who have a large amount. I got hit there coming down from the 5 skill, canceling to the 4. That sucks. But it's important to... I got blinded, basically. Important to identify those types of characters because having AoE skills on 1, 2, and 3, the skills that you're not proccing on, doesn't have to be 1, 2, or 3 specifically, but whatever skills you're not proccing on, it's important to have some AoE, you know, Cable's 3rd skill AoE, Cable's 2nd skill AoE, other characters' AoE skills, Luna Snow's 5 and stuff like that, because those will help you clear out the mobs, allowing you to focus damage on the real monster, the real enemy of the people, which is the Frost Beast. And that's another reason why, or that's the primary reason why, one of the primary reasons why Deadpool is a bad character for Alliance Battle Extreme. He doesn't have a lot of AoE. His 5th skill has AoE, but you want to proc your obelisk on his 5th skill, so you're left in a situation where you can't really focus a lot of your damage onto the mobs, or onto the Frost Beast, because they're hitting the mobs. The other problem with Deadpool is that he doesn't have, that the all defense down doesn't stack very well, so it disappears before you can take advantage of it. But that is an example that does also apply here to Quasar. And if you're paying attention, if you're eagle-eyed, there are a few procs that I land with her 5th skill, 4th skill combo, not when I get blinded, but there was a proc just now actually where it did like almost 10,000 points, which is actually pretty good. But that's only when you get lucky on a fluke rotation and all of the robots are dead. They're waiting to spawn, and you can get a nice, you can get a nice proc off without them. Otherwise, you do between like 3,000 and 5,000 damage, which is basically, or points rather, which is basically half. With your 5 cancel 4 proc, which is a pretty fun character. She's pretty underused. She probably needs an upgrade at some point. And she is the most expensive, obviously, being, hey, nice mythical card there, Dan Ramos. Being the most expensive character, being a bio sub character, she's probably your last option to get 100,000 points with for universal female superhero, but she is an option nonetheless, and I'm sure you can probably score 100,000 with a super juiced out Singularity. Mine doesn't have a damage proc, so it'll be hard. I'm imagining that even definitely Clea and probably as well Angela and Jane Foster can, but I wanted to focus on the 4 heavy hitters, or the 3 heavy hitters, and then the sad one in the middle that I hope becomes godly. I hope in a couple weeks to look back on this video and be hype that now Captain Marvel is easily blocking and blowing up 2 million and up in the Universal Superhero Female category. So let me know what you think of Captain Marvel. Let me know what your expectations are for that uniform and for that upgrade and that possible legendary battle. Let me know who you're using for Universal Female Hero Day. That takes so long to say. Subscribe if you enjoy the content. Hit me up on Twitch for more. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.